and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail, and we're doing this program on the first day of spring, on the 20th of March. So I'm going to say happy springtime to those of you in the viewing audience. And yesterday, while I was exercising with a DVD, with an exercise DVD, I got stung on the top of my foot by a wasp on the last day of winter. It had gotten in the house. So that's my big news of the last couple of days. My guests today are the ladies from the Cornell Cooperative Extension, and they are here to have a smoothies making war. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, were you going to talk about what you're doing before you start making it?
Sure, we could even talk about how it started if you.
Oh, how did it start?
Yeah, let's have that. Let's do that.
Okay, so we do our Facebook Live sessions, meal planning sessions on Fridays, and we were talking about smoothies. One of the first ones we did, we were talking about smoothies, and I had a $50 blender because I tend to be, we'll say, frugal. And I was complaining that as much as I love green smoothies, I can never get them smooth enough to just drink them. I was always chewing them, and Trish said, I can teach you how to make a green smoothie that you won't have to chew. And I was like, okay. But I had explained that I like beet smoothies also, and Trish, I don't believe, is a huge fan of beets. And that one of the ways that I circumvented my less than fabulous blender was to buy canned beets, because the fresh ones, again, were kind of that same issue, like constantly chewing the smoothie, and the flavor was good, but the texture was just wrong. So that was one way that I fixed it. So we had this, and then we had somebody who was commenting on the post and said, I want to see your smoothie demonstrations. So we were trying to figure out how we were going to do that, and it sounded like super fun. And then we wound up here and said, "This is the right spot to make this happen." So.
And you have other people to try the smoothies.
Yeah,
so.
Different judges. That's perfect.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So since then, I did finally invest in a great blender. So. I've been running a household for over 20 years, and it is, I have decided, a worthy investment. It's life-changing that I can walk away where I was like standing and, my blender, the motor came on top and you had to hold it down to keep it running. There was no auto set, so I was standing there for 10 minutes trying to blend up a smoothie that I would still wind up chewing. It was frustrating. So this has been a nice investment, and the kids are using it, so it's given them a degree of like, I can make smoothies and I can make them my way, and it has an auto clean feature, and I never come down and it's dirty. It's been fabulous.
What about you, Tricia?
So I've been making smoothies for years, and I have my blender has a blade that goes all the way. I don't know what I'm doing. Here we go. So it has blades that go all the way up. But I made a smoothie this morning to practice because I tried something new, which I'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
And my smoothie wasn't as smooth as it normally is. So I'm thinking that I'm going to have to invest in a new blender as well.
Blender.
Yeah, but
Yeah, all of my
they
blades
wear
are on the
out
bottom.
after a while, don't
yeah,
they?
I mean, all blades get dull,
Yeah,
and
that's
you
true.
know, I mean, I know that my mom and like my grandmother grew up thinking that things should just last forever, but in reality, they don't. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we definitely live in a much more disposable society than we should today.
Yeah.
I
But-
think my husband thinks that everything should last
I
forever
do.
too.
I
mean,
do.
he's been having me procrastinate getting a new vacuum cleaner for myself.
Yeah.
And the thing is pretty worn out.
Yeah. I think when I first moved home, my mom got after me about my dishcloths because I'd had them since, and at that point, I think we'd been married probably 7 to 10 years, something like that. And she was like, "Don't you want new dishcloths?" And I was like, "Why?" They still work, they're fine. But they were getting, like, the pattern fades away and they start to get thin, and yeah, I didn't see that as an issue. So yeah, I get the whole, like, wear it out, like it has to not even be able to function before I'm done with it.
My sister, I think we're overrun with dish towels. My sister sends us some gives us some for a Christmas present every year.
Yeah.
So we always seem to have lots of, I don't have to shop for dish towels
No.
because my sister does that for me.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
Yep.
I used to think that was one thing you could never have too many of, and then I found out that that's not true. You can.
Yeah, you can.
When you run out of space to store them.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, that's it.
Yeah, I still have some that my great-grandmother crocheted the top on.
Oh yeah.
And they look like brand new, and Mom was like, "Why don't you use these?" And I was like, "Why do I need to?"
Yeah,
I don't
I
need to
know, I know the feeling. Yeah, my sister does that with some of them too, and
Yeah.
we've got a lot of those, and they don't get used very often. I'll hang them out when we have company or something,
Yeah.
for drying hands on.
Right.
Yes.
So,
Yep, for sure.
so anyways,
So, shall we make smoothies?
I think we should just dive right in.
All right. Do you want to go first?
I will, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so, wow, I just stepped on my microphone and wrecked it.
oops,
I may not be able to go first. Did I break it forever?
probably not.
Okay.
You want to fix that, and I'll go first?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. And I won't step on mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, mine was the one that fell apart the last time you were here.
Right. Okay, so my smoothie is, I put spinach, sometimes I'll get kale, but spinach is easier, and I use spinach more often in just my regular cooking. So that's what I use more of. So what I use frozen berries, and these are just mixed berries. And then I freeze my bananas, because a frozen banana will give you a smoother texture, and then it feels more like a milkshake when you drink it. And what I'm doing new today is I bought some silken tofu. Normally I use yogurt, but Gail's a vegan, and I just thought, well, if I bring something that's vegan, then she'll try it. And that actually worked out really well, and I didn't hate it. And I use orange juice in my smoothies. So the first thing I will do is I'm going to put in, can I borrow one of your spatulas?
Yes.
Thank you. So let's put in a good amount. I don't measure at home. If I'm using yogurt, I have a big spoon that I use, and so then I know how much I've used approximately. And I'll throw in a couple of banana. These are cut in half, so I'll just throw in a couple of, I'll do 3, since we're making it to share for people to try. And this is about 3 cups of berries, so yes, I did measure that. So, and then a couple of big handfuls of spinach. And the nice thing about using dark berries, so this is a mix of raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, and blueberries. And the nice thing about using dark berries is it helps to hide the spinach. And so if you're making this for kids and you're trying to get them to eat more vegetables, this is a good way to sneak them in. It's not on. There we go. Got it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. See some spinach leaves that are being kind of finicky. There we go. And then I just, you know, I add more orange juice as needed, or if I don't want to add more orange juice, sometimes I'll add more water. I'll add water to help thin it a little bit. But I like mine to feel more like a frozen drink, like a slushie or a milkshake. Okay. So you can see it's kind of purple. It's like a dark purple color. You can still see the spinach, which is telling me that my blades probably aren't as sharp as they once were.
They want some of the smoothies.
Yes, I figured.
A couple of men just walked into the studio motioning that they wanted to try the
Hello,
smoothies.
is there food here?
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, that's gross. So I'm kidding.
It's fine. Honesty, we're honest. It's fine.
You know,
If
honestly,
the other two want to try it too.
I love how sweet it is, though.
Is it a little tart?
It's tart for me.
Is it?
It's actually pretty good.
It's good, but it's tart. It's a little tart.
Yeah. So, but you could add honey, or you could add maple syrup. You could.
It's actually very good.
Yeah.
you
Thank
know,
you. And it has
it's a,
tofu in it.
it's a good,
Tofu.
it's a good way, it's a good way to,
The tofu.
it's a good way to get some, to ingest the spinach, you know, for people who maybe don't like spinach or
Sure.
something.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, it's flavored with the berries and the bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And an extra banana piece would help it be a little sweeter.
Berries more.
Yeah. So yeah, adding an extra piece of banana would help up the sweetness factor, and or like I said, you could add some honey or some maple syrup, or if you absolutely had to, you could add some sugar. You could get monk fruit sugar. Monk fruit sugar has no calories, and you know, so that would
There's
be.
something else too that doesn't have any calories. It's called xylitol, and it's actually made out of birch bark.
Okay, I've
And
heard of it,
it's
but I didn't.
it's actually really good for your dental health too, because like if you get some xylitol mints to put in your mouth after a meal, it neutralizes the acid in your mouth, and the acid in your mouth from eating and drinking causes the enamel on your teeth to soften up. So it's good to use some xylitol mints after eating, between the time you eat and the time you brush your teeth, so that the enamel is hardened up on your teeth, so you don't brush the enamel off your teeth. So,
Okay.
so that's something that people can use too.
I've heard of xylitol. I didn't know it was made from birch bark, and I didn't know that it would do that for your teeth. So
Yeah, no, I've just seen it in gum.
yeah, that.
There's that. All right.
So what'd you think?
It's sweet. I love that. Yeah. So, and it's pretty close. I mean, I've never tried tofu either in a smoothie. That's wild, and I didn't even taste it or.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yours is gonna be a lot thicker and creamier than mine, and sweeter, because I'm not really a sugar.
You can make something. You can make something called eggless egg salad to having sandwiches out of tofu where you chop it up into chunks like you would the eggs, and then you can add some mayonnaise and some mustard and maybe a little bit of onion and garlic or something, and have it in your sandwich too. So
All right. So awesome. Awesome job. And it's such a perfect time for smoothies. I mean, coming into spring, I don't know what it is. The snow goes away and I want to go outside and I want to drink vegetables.
well, you know,
I don't know why that is, but it is.
I was just mentioning to the girls a little while ago that I've always heard that all of the foods that are locally grown during the spring are actually blood purifiers. And I'm not just talking about things like rhubarb and asparagus that people originally plant in their gardens, but you can eat dandelion greens, you can eat burdock, all different kinds of things that grow wild in nature that come up in the spring are blood purifying foods. So,
Well, and even just eating, what's available to you locally is just such a good idea anyway. It's environmentally sound. We're reducing our transportation, and when you reduce transportation, you're also increasing the freshness factor of whatever it is that you're taking in. So buying local is a great idea. And I had told Gail earlier I wear my Chautauqua Grown shirt, which you can't see on the back, but Chautauqua Grown is a website that is hosted by Cornell Cooperative Extension, and it features a listing of local growers from everything that's around. So if they've agreed to be on that website, then their contact information is listed there. And if you're looking for a product that's locally grown, you can go to Chautauqua Grown and hopefully find someone close to you to get that from. So it's a great time of year because everybody's going to start growing things, and it's a nice, if a farmer's market isn't convenient for you, it might be convenient to work with somebody who produces locally and right from their home. All right, so here we go. Let's see if I can stand up and not blow my microphone.
would you like to tell the story about your first, how you never had beets until you were an adult?
Oh, yeah, okay, sure. So, my family didn't eat beets that I remember. I think my mom might have liked them or something. I remember candied beets or something at the holidays, but I never touched them. And so my father-in-law, I was in Ohio, and I think my first daughter was born, so first child. So still kind of new in the family and, not wanting to cause too much issue. And Dad asked me if I wanted to try beets. And I said, sure, I'm going to be all positive and give this a whirl. And I had no idea that they were pickled beets, and I don't like pickled anything. So my mother-in-law was at the stove, and she was making dinner or something, or finishing dinner, and I put this big spoonful of pickled beets in my mouth, and I don't hide my emotions well, and I failed miserably at that point. And he Dad had this very snickery, chortling laugh, and he just kind of exploded with that chortle, and he always called my mother-in-law Doc, and he was like, I don't think she likes him, Doc. So I didn't try beets again for a really long time, and then I found I don't know what stirred them in my head, but I was like, oh, beets, and I think I saw a beet smoothie recipe, and I was like, maybe I can try beets like that. So I got a fresh beet, and I tried that, and I was like, oh, this isn't anything like that pickled beet taste. This is good. This is great. So I had tried it in my, again, inferior blender at the time, and wound up chewing it, and I didn't love that. So I moved to canned beets. So if you have a blender that isn't fantastic for you, and we talk about that a lot in our sessions, that it doesn't matter, canned, frozen, or fresh are all fine. Nutritionally, the profiles are very similar. If you're worried about the sodium content in a canned vegetable, you can rinse it and reduce that. If you're worried about the sugar content in a canned fruit, You can rinse that. You can also look for fruits canned in juice instead of syrup, and that will reduce the sugar too. So I don't have a banana. I considered a banana. My children ate them.
I have extra.
You do have extra.
She has half of a banana.
We could throw it in there. I mean, there's no hard and fast rule to smoothies, I don't feel. So, all right, but I do have apples. And just for today, I wouldn't normally, because again, I don't need a whole lot of sweet in my world to make me happy. So, and my kids don't love that really. So, so I would normally just put the diced up apple in, but I did throw a little bit of orange juice in there just to keep them from browning, because I thought that might look nasty on TV, brown apples in a jar.
That was smart.
Yeah. All of my blades in my blender, I should show that too, are a little bit different than Trisha's. They're all in the bottom. And then there's a serrated blade and then some smooth blades in there too. I thought that was really neat when I first got it. But I tend to create an order of events in my smoothie just because, you know, where are the blades? And then, so like my apple, I think is going to be the hardest thing to blend up. So I'm going to put that closest to the blades. I'll dump that in first. And then it might be, maybe I have it out of order a little bit. I have frozen mixed berries too. We didn't plan that. But I was kind of wishing that I had some frozen cherries, just plain frozen cherries, because I think that would have been really good. But I think that the mixed berries will be just fine in there too. So, and then I'm going to add my beets. And that's the other great thing about canned vegetables is the prep work is done for you. There's no peeling, slicing. It's just a dump and go kind of thing.
And beets are messy.
Yeah, beets can be,
They'll turn everything
beets can
red.
be ugly. And I'll add the bananas in just because why not, you know? Who's going to complain about that?
Right.
I did go a little experimental too because Gail's a vegan. Ordinarily, I might throw Greek yogurt in there with a little bit of water or milk. It's just kind of whatever I've got going on in my kitchen. I'm not particular. But I found in the grocery store this oat beverage, and I'm kind of intrigued by this. And I did make one, and I was happy with it. Nutritionally, it's low calorie, and the nutritional values were similar to milk. I didn't study them very hard. The only thing that really, I was loving the nutrition profile and freaking out about the ingredients because it does have preservatives and thickeners in it to try and get that whole mouthfeel of milk. And it was, I will say, far more expensive. It was $3.99 for the quart, whatever that is, where, you know, you can get a gallon of milk for that much and maybe less, just depending.
Yeah, but like the almond milk and like that is less costly.
Yeah, they don't compare though. The only nut beverage that really is close, and it's not a nut, is soy. But the nut beverages, they're high in protein. They don't usually have the calcium, and then you have to be really careful too. If you're buying a vanilla or a flavored, they're usually going to be really high in sugar. And this wasn't. The oat wasn't. I'm super curious about it. I'm honestly wondering if I can make it at home. You know, because you can almost, that's another hard thing for me too, is like, how does a nut go from a nut to a beverage? I don't get that. But oatmeal I can see is like, you know, it's a softer cereal. I can kind of see how this could turn into a drink. Like, okay, I get this. So I thought that was a really interesting thing. This is my homemade vanilla. So, and I don't measure it. I know this is probably a tablespoon or more. I just soak vanilla beans in clear rum or vodka. So, you know, there's that. Little shot won't hurt you. And then just for kicks, I throw in some chia seeds. They will help thicken a little bit and add some fiber and a little extra nutrition to the whole shebang. So we're going to close the lid up here. And I have a smoothie setting now. It's the most exciting thing ever. And I just get to chill out now and let it go. So it'll be about a minute while it blends. It's a long minute, right? We're down to 5 seconds. There we go. All right, and meanwhile, I'm getting messages from my son that he's making potatoes. I'm so excited about that. Like, I hope
He's making potatoes?
Yeah, he is. He's my son is a far better cook than I am. Like, he's way more aware of seasonings and mouthfeel and plating, and I'm just like throw it together and throw it and eat it and move on with your life. Like, this is my husband.
Get it in my stomach.
Yeah, my husband, when I like to sew, I like to do a lot of crafty and design type things. And when my husband asked me to marry him, he talked to my grandpa, and apparently they got into this conversation. I didn't hear the whole thing, and I've never been relayed the details exactly. But what I heard my husband say was, "I'm going to be the best dressed dead man around." That was that. Nobody's perfect. It's fine.
We all have our talents.
Yes, that's right. So, yeah, so I'm excited to go home, and I'll give you guys just a little. Like I said, it's not going to be nearly as sweet, I wouldn't think, as, do you want to take one down and pass it around, as Trisha's. But you're welcome to try it.
The color is really beautiful.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's prettier than mine.
I love the bee color too.
Brown versus purple.
Okay, there's one of those for one of you guys. Another one for one of you guys.
I'm going to keep pouring until somebody tells me, whoa, so just so you know.
It looks like really thick cane.
Well, you can definitely tell by the taste that there are beets
Yep, yeah.
Are you dying?
in it.
I'm not dying.
You normally don't like beets?
I really
She's
don't
not
like,
vegan.
I don't like
I'm
even
not a
like
big
the
beet
smell
fan
of them.
either, but-
Yeah. But no, but this
Lot of beet
isn't.
taste. Maybe maybe
Cut that back a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, there was actually, I had that figured out. I think it was three. So a cup and a half of beets was in that jar. So yeah, you could back that off pretty easy. It'd be fine.
What you were saying about the almond milk, though,
The xylitol.
what you said about the almond milk, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of calcium in it, actually. Actually, it's my understanding that if you take 12 almonds, are supposed to be enough for a daily. If you eat 12 almonds, that's supposed to be enough to take care of your dose of calcium for the day.
They do vary, and it seems like what one has, the other one doesn't, kind of thing. So you really do have to read the labels and look at your own goals and what you want to accomplish with that beverage. And you're right, some of them do, but it's just when you compare them to milk, it seems like if they have one thing, they don't have the other thing, and milk has all of those things. But like I said, we don't judge people's food choices. That's why we kind of varied from the norm of what we usually do, and that's what we would do in a session also for our participants. Anyone that has a different food need or whatever, we do our best to compensate with our recipes and cater to what works.
And now this is the cleaning process?
Well, I won't do that right now. I just, yeah. But yeah, it's all ready to rinse when we're done. So. Yeah.
So what Heather was explaining is that as far as what our program dictates is that when we're talking to participants about dairy, if they're not drinking milk and they can't drink milk,
Right.
then we tell them that soy is the next best option because the way soy beverages are made, it's fortified more the same way that dairy is.
Yes.
And the other nut milks are fine if that's what they want,
Right.
but when it comes to our guidelines, that's what we're looking for is that it's fortified more in the same way that milk is.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because I believe, is vitamin D added?
Vitamin D is added to, yes,
Soy?
milk. I don't know.
Or is it the calcium that we're looking at mainly?
I think it's probably the calcium. The vitamin D that's added in milk does help with calcium absorption. But you can compensate that by going outside. And now we're finally to the weather where, it's going to be fun to go outside. That's going to be a very good thing.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, and that's a great thing about smoothies too, is you can kind of take that base of, I know I'm going to put some fruit in there. I know I'm going to put some veggies in there. I know I need some sort of liquid, and whatever my nutritional need or concern might be, I can do that. Sometimes if I do a green smoothie, my liquid is green tea. If I'm feeling kind of low on energy or whatever, then I'll throw green tea in there instead. So it's such a versatile thing once you kind of get the elements of, I need a liquid, I want a vegetable, I want a fruit, and then it's a really easy way, like when we talk about my plate, we're encouraging that half of your plate, half of your daily intake of food is fruits and vegetables. So right now, like anybody that tasted that, you got a vegetable today. You got a couple vegetables today. Congratulations.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Since we've turned into a studio audience now,
Excellent.
Yeah,
I
we
love
have a
that.
studio audience today, and we hadn't even planned on it.
I love that.
can you talk about diabetic
Yes.
smoothies and things like that? I'm sure that you talk about that
Mm-hmm.
in your programs, because I'm diabetic. I do smoothies, but I buy mixes, protein, inactive protein mixes from a company called Arbonne. I'm sure
Yep.
you've probably heard of it.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yep.
And I've been doing that for probably over a year now. And I do add the banana and the fruit to it, but as far as being a diabetic, how can I advantage these to my health?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So you do want to watch the carbohydrates and the sugars in the fruits. But as far as, the options in the world, fruits are not a bad option for
Yeah,
a
I
diabetic.
don't think the viewing audience could hear him because he's not wearing a microphone.
true.
But we
Okay.
might want to tell them that he's wondering how he can use the smoothies for his diabetic diet.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, so you would want to be careful. If that smoothie isn't sweet enough for you, you want to add more veggies than fruits because they do have fructose, a naturally occurring sugar. You do want to be careful. So on a diabetic plate, it looks different than the my plate that we see for our general population. And fruit comes off the plate and vegetables take up half the plate. And our carbohydrates stay and then our proteins stay, but you'll see that the fruits are not connected to the plate and neither is the dairy. And that's because of the naturally occurring sugars that are found there. Fructose in the fruit and lactose in our milk products. And aside, cheese becomes a protein because in the process of making cheese, we remove much of the lactose, the milk sugar, and so actually it becomes a protein choice. So that's a really exciting thing. And if you do happen to have a snack like an apple, and you're worried about maybe your sugar's running a little bit high that day, if you pair it with a protein like a nut or a cheese or something like that, you will metabolize the glucose a little bit more evenly. So that's not smoothies, but that's what we're going for though. If we're thinking about a smoothie, more veggies than fruit, a little bit of fruit for the sweetness. You could consider an artificial like a stevia or the monk fruit that Trish was talking about to give it a little bit of a sweeter profile. And you might want to consider a different liquid. And again, milk would be the lactose.
I don't use milk.
Yep.
I use almond milk.
Okay, so, and again, just watch the sugars on that. Make sure there's no added sugars. You're doing the unflavored
Yeah.
version.
Unflavored, unsweetened.
Yep.
My problem is I'm not a big vegetable eater.
Okay, so yeah,
I actually buy a vegetable supplement that I mix with in water to get my full days. But I think.
Is that one of those things that's made out of green vegetables?
Oh, it's fruits and vegetables. It's got about 4 different categories. It's listed on the side. There's a lot of pomegranate and spinach and stuff like. It counts as your daily amount of actual fruits and vegetables
Wow,
in one scoop.
that's amazing.
My problem is I think I eat way too much fruit because I love fruit.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
Right.
And at least a cup of other veg or fruit in the smoothie. And then I eat fruit at work for lunch. So I'm wondering if that might be why my sugar is
It could.
a little.
Yeah. Like I said,
So
pair it with a
what
protein.
is the best fruit for diabetics?
Ooh. That's a tough one. They don't really.
Again, you might want to reiterate.
Well, you know,
Right,
there are
right.
certain fruits that really aren't very sweet. You know, like
Right. My plate doesn't really rank them like that. They do rank vegetables like that.
Okay.
With and we're talking about a fruit that is better than another fruit for a diabetic, and they all contain fructose. I'm sure there are different levels, but generally they're just higher than vegetables. But the vegetables are ranked differently, and so there are higher carbohydrate vegetables like corn, peas, potatoes, and they move over into the carbohydrate side of the plate. And it's really the green leafies, the spinach, the kale, the broccoli that we really love on that whole half of a plate for a diabetic. So, and fruits are it's not a no-go, like I said. You can still have some, and I feel it's a way better choice than candy bars aren't on the plate at all.
Which is really kind of a shame. But
Yeah. And So really, I think for a diabetic that likes fruit, my suggestion, and it really is our suggestion no matter who we teach, is start with something that's good and then add something good to that. So fruit is not I know it's tough when you're a diabetic. Fruit is not a horrible thing, and it is on the plate. What can you add, from these other food groups that you like, to build from that, and eventually try and move a little bit more this way onto the plate and still enjoy your fruit.
yeah, I think Heather's point about trying to add a protein to it.
Yep.
Well, that's part of the protein supplement that I use in my smoothie, is to get that protein.
Right.
I've always kind of assumed that the more tart tasting fruits probably are not as high in sugar, because there are things like certain kinds of berries that are very tart tasting.
Yeah, you'd want to look at the nutrition facts, and you can find that online because it's not really readily available in the grocery store. And we do have more information like that available to us at work. So if anybody wanted to email or call, we could look that up for you. Absolutely. Yeah, and you're paying attention for a diabetic. It's even more than the sugars line, although the sugars and the added sugars are, you really want to avoid added sugars in particular, but the carbohydrate levels are what we really pay attention to. So, and most people will have a number that their doctor or their nutritionist has given them of carbohydrates that they want to try and stay within that range every day.
And I think too, drinking water
Yes.
helps your body to process the sugar and
True. Yeah, and if you like fruit, you can absolutely do infused water with your favorite fruit flavors. That was a tongue twister. And get that flavor that you like.
They had, the last time they were here, they
yeah, we did.
brought some infused water. Were you here?
Sobe.
It was, they had some blueberries and a few lemon slices in a quart of water.
Interesting.
Yeah.
we can talk after.
How much time you got?
17 minutes, keep going.
17 minutes. Do you have any questions, Jeff? Who
Not at
just
the
went,
moment.
somebody just went through the door over there.
Well,
That was Doc.
Oh,
going
was
back
it?
to the sugar, I like candy, I like cookies, I like that. I'm a horrible diabetic.
A lot of people are.
really am.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's
And-
really hard.
And I'm a cyclist. I ride thousands of miles every year, which helps
Yes.
a lot with keeping my sugar under control. But I'm finding more and more lately it's not helping as much as it used to. So,
How's your heart health?
oh, besides the diet, well, besides my sleep apnea, my high blood pressure, my diabetes, and my asthma, and my bad knees, I'm a picture of health.
That's awesome.
My blood work is really good.
So cool.
My blood work is actually, the cholesterol and everything are right in parameters. So, and my heart health is really good. It's just all the other stuff.
Yeah.
How's your water intake?
Not, typically I'll start with this, a good sized smoothie in the morning. And then a 20 ounce, I use 20 ounces of liquid for the vegetable. And then I'll drink probably another half gallon throughout the day of some sort of liquid. So that not being the best, even though it's diet.
Ew.
Yeah, so your sugar issues might just be because you're not drinking enough water. And
Think so?
yeah.
It helps.
Just straight plain water.
Well, you can infuse it, but sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but get away from the flavored waters, like the sodas and
You'd want to read the label and see what the.
yeah, because some of those artificial
Sugar lines.
sweeteners are worse for you than the actual sugar.
It's a totally debatable point, and I've heard it so many different ways. You know, and it is about choice again. And there is now this whole category of artificial sweeteners that are plant-based. So if that's something that you're concerned with, you know, you can look into those. In the case of a diabetic, you know, the sugar intake is an issue, and if you aren't controlling your diabetes, then it might be a safer choice for you to lean into the artificial category to help with management. Yeah, and it's, I mean, personally, I'll dip away from Cornell for a second and my plate in USDA. You know, the more ingredients in a list of a food product, the more concerned I am, you know.
Well, you know, to be honest with you, the only things I drink really are water and herbal teas are the only things that I drink. So,
Oh, that's a great point too. There are some awesome teas, herbal teas, that you can cold steep in water. They will add no calories, but they will add so much flavor. There's an orange tea, and of course, aren't the names going to just completely leave my mind right now?
Is it the Celestial Seasonings?
It's not, but that would probably be a good one too. I found it at Walmart, honestly.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
take
our
you
one
can
has a lot.
you can take herbal tea bags and put them in a gallon of water and let it sit in the fridge, and it'll flavor up the water.
Yep, and they never
really,
get bitter.
really good.
Yeah, where I get my supplements, they have a line of teas.
Yeah, yeah. So try anything that's kind of fruity. The lemons, the berries. There's one that's called Zen. It's not Stash that makes that.
There's
it's really good.
Celestial
It's one of my
Seasonings.
favorites.
Celestial Seasonings has one called Bengal Spice.
Yeah.
The-
Yeah. The ones with cinnamon, though, you have to be really careful because if you don't drink them, that's the orange tea I like too. Is an orange and a cinnamon, and it's great. Like if you drink it really fast, it's so sweet and really good. And then if you let it steep a while, the cinnamon kind of kicks in, and it's like you're drinking a Red Hot. Woo! So yeah, you got to play around with some of these things.
Yeah. A lot of people like the different kinds of mint teas. One that I like is by the Yogi Tea Company. It's called Egyptian licorice. Now, licorice is an herb where the flavoring for licorice candy comes from.
Right.
Is actually an herb, and I do like the licorice tea, You wouldn't want to drink huge amounts of it, though, because it's my understanding you can overdose on licorice. But
Yeah,
you know,
licorice-
maybe a cup a cup of licorice tea once in a while. Very good tasting if you like the taste of licorice candy, but without
It's candy, how long?
no, but it doesn't have any sugar. You know, the herbal tea just, I mean, it flavors, it just makes it's a very good tasting tea, but there's no sugar in it, so you might like
Candy
it.
and pies there's not a pie or candy that I've met that I don't like. You know?
Somebody in our viewing audience just said there's not a pie or a kind of candy that I don't like. So, what about you, Doc? Do you have any questions about nutrition?
Let's talk about quinoa.
I love
quinoa.
quinoa.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Now what's that?
It's a grain.
Okay.
It's actually a seed, and it is one of the few plant-based. It's one of the few things that is a complete protein that's plant-based. So to get a complete protein, it has to have all the amino acids. And so when you eat a steak, if you eat a piece of chicken, that has all the amino acids. When you eat beans, beans have some amino acids. And if you eat rice, rice has the other amino acids that beans don't have. But
That's why it's so traditional to eat rice and beans together.
Okay.
So,
So-
I do some rice and beans.
But quinoa is a complete protein on its own. And when I cook it, I will either cook it and serve it like oatmeal. So I'll cook it in water, and then I'll have, so I'll add some nuts and some craisins and some milk to it and some honey. Or you can cook it and serve it like rice.
Yes.
And when I do that, then I cook it in like a stock, in like chicken stock or a beef stock or a vegetable stock, and then it'll pick up the flavor of that. And it's very, very versatile.
Yeah, it is. You can do anything with that stuff.
Yeah.
You can even toast it. Just
I've not done that.
and then it's like a little crunchy salad topping or something. Yeah.
Oh.
It's fun. Yeah.
soybeans are a complete protein too. But I guess
I'm not a vegetable person, so that's why I buy the daily vegetable supplement, so I can drink my vegetables.
I think this is so gender biased, but I feel like it's kind of a male thing. I don't understand it, but like men in my world are not giant veggie eaters. I don't know if that's wrong. I mean, I'm surrounded, so feel free to jump in and tell me I'm way wrong.
my husband,
Awesome.
my
There's
husband is a big veggie eater, and I know a lot of other men that are. So
Yes, maybe it's just the
You're
ones
just
I'm
sheltered, Heather.
Maybe, yeah. And we have to speak delicately about the men in my world when we're on Facebook Live because their food goals, as we call them, are
Yeah.
so much more limited than mine.
Yeah, when she says 3/4 of the people in my house liked something, I'm pretty sure I know who the quarter is that didn't like it.
Yeah. So the story that I like to tell lately is I have been trying to introduce brown rice into my family, and 3/4 of us will eat brown rice, and the other 1/4 FedExed. FedExed, let me tell you. And I teach budget-friendly shopping, a 5-pound box of minute rice to me.
we love
goals.
brown rice at our house. And
That's the only rice I use is brown rice.
yeah, brown
Oh,
rice.
it's more diabetic friendly.
I
Yes,
like the brown
yes.
basmati rice too. Oh, that smells so good when it's
It
cooking.
does, yeah.
If I go a certain amount of time, like if I go a couple of weeks without having brown rice, I start to crave it. You know,
you?
I've got to eat some brown rice. you know?
Yeah, it's got a really neat nutty
Yeah.
flavor I like. so.
Yeah.
It's not bad if you throw vegetables in it and
Oh, he saes it,
dump soy sauce.
this
There you
person
go.
that says he's not a big vegetable person, he
Just
goes,
made a
"It's not
stir fry
big."
in the
He
corner
just
over
said- He just said, if you throw some vegetables in it, it's
I'm
not.
talking like my peas and corn, the bad ones.
The
Celery, you know.
So what I wanted to say about vegetables, have you tried them roasted?
No.
Ooh.
Try that. Roasted vegetables are so different. It totally tastes the change of them, and they're so much better than if you just put them in a pot and boil or steam them. It brings out the natural sugars and it caramelizes, and
Oh,
they're
yeah.
really good.
You mentioned something about caramelizing onions the last time you did a cooking demonstration on Fresh Perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, I got to thinking about it that that maybe I should have had you mention to people in the viewing audience who might not know what that means to caramelize onions. Would you tell them what that means to caramelize onions?
Yeah, of course. So to caramelize onions, you or anything, you want to cook it until it starts to turn brown. And so with onions, you know, you're gonna put some butter or some olive oil in a pan. You want it kind of a medium high, and you're gonna put the onions in, and you're gonna cook them until they start to turn brown and they get that caramel color. And what that's doing is it's bringing out the natural sugar, and it's literally turning it to a caramel. And that gives it a sweeter flavor, and it changes the flavor profile of it completely.
Yep. Yeah, that's how I came to like Brussels sprouts. But I didn't before. And then, yeah, roast them, and it changes your whole entire world.
Yeah, for a long time, my husband wouldn't eat Brussels sprouts. And if he wasn't going to be home on a certain evening or something, I would get some.
Yes.
And that have just that for my supper, just Brussels sprouts, and kind of pig out on them. I remember I was telling that to somebody one time, and the person that I was telling about it, he goes, "You really are one different kind of a person." He goes, "Usually when people talk about pigging out on something, they're talking about pizza or something like that.
Or cake.
Yeah,
He goes, you just usually don't hear people say that they pig out on Brussels sprouts, but I have always loved them myself. Although my husband has kind of been warming up to them in the last few years or so.
Yeah.
You know, that's something else that we talk about when we're doing our nutrition education is for children, and this even works for adults, is it might take 5, 10, 15 times of trying a food before they finally decide they like it. And, you know, look for different ways to cook something, you know. I had never thought to really roast. I mean, when I made a pot roast, I would put carrots and potatoes in it, but I never thought of just roasting a pan of vegetables.
Right.
And, you know, and that's something I learned, you know, about 8 or 9 years ago. So go on the internet and look for different recipes, and, you know, if there's something you're really trying to get your family to eat, just
don't give
Google,
up.
you know, different ways to cook something or how to make it more palatable or kid-friendly. I mean, I honestly believe there's nothing wrong with adding cheese to broccoli if it'll get your kids to eat it, or allowing them to dip it in ranch dressing. Whatever it takes to get them to eat the vegetable, that's the thing that's the most important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I disagree. There's nothing you can do to broccoli to make it taste good.
Oh.
Somebody just said there's nothing you can do to broccoli to make it taste good.
That's a challenge.
So
I love broccoli. It is a challenge.
You know
I
what?
think we're going to accept that challenge.
Challenge accepted.
Sprouted broccoli seeds, just the sprouts. If you sprout broccoli seeds and put them in a salad, they taste a lot. It tastes a lot better than the full-grown broccoli.
Yes, that's cheating. I'm talking full-grown broccoli.
No, the broccoli sprouts are actually more nutrient, have a higher nutrient content than the full-grown broccoli. Yeah, I love them in sandwiches and
See, I
salads.
can eat bean sprouts. Those aren't too bad.
Uh-huh. I think the broccoli sprouts
I don't
taste,
think I've ever seen or ever tried them.
you never tried broccoli
I don't think
sprouts.
so.
It's kind
'Cause
of
it
a
has
new
broccoli
thing.
attached to it, so it's automatically meat, brown.
That's what I'm used to. That's how my house rolls. Yep. What'd you do? So, yeah, and so when that 1/4 would be away for work, like you were talking about, that's when things got really adventurous. And so when my kids were really little, they would, sit at the counter and be like, Mom, what are we having for dinner? And I go, we're going on a taste adventure. And the first couple of times it was like, ooh. And then after a while it was like, oh God, what is she doing?
What is this crazy mother I come up with now?
Yeah.
Well,
Dad, come
no,
back.
sometimes I wonder if maybe people don't kind of spoil their kids by letting them have the kind of things they think kids are going to like. And I think if you can start them out from the very beginning, feeding them vegetables and things like that, when they're really little and you're in control of what they're eating, I think it can prevent a lot of problems because I see it as what you've never had, you don't miss. So if they start out very young with really healthy foods and you don't feed them any of the sugary or other kinds of things that if they don't know what the other stuff, if they don't have the opportunity to find out what that other stuff tastes like.
That is a good point, but there is still everybody has their own built-in, there are some people that have more taste buds, and so there actually is a thing called super taster, and
It's not me.
but I think that might be your husband actually, and
Maybe.
I think that's my ex-husband because he just there's things that he just cannot eat, and some of it is a texture issue for people.
Yes.
And a lot of that is actually inborn. It's part of who you are when you come into the world, and I think that if somebody really wanted to overcome that, they probably could. But you do have to. I agree that children should be given more healthy foods and less junk food, obviously, and given less options for junk food. But again, I believe that children still also should be allowed to have their preferences to a degree, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, so.
Well, we have come to the end of another episode of Fresh Perspectives. Thank you for coming on again.
Thanks for having us.
And I'll see those of you in the viewing audience on the next episode.